Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet Zar. And today's guest, really, it's a cliche to say, needs no introduction, but he really needs no introduction. Rick Baker is on the show today. You know Rick Baker. Everybody knows Rick Baker. For me, as a makeup effects artist who came from the makeup effects industry, Rick Baker's, one of the people that inspired many of us to start making monsters in the first place. So I've been wanting to have him on for a long time, just as a guest of the show and to talk to him. But he's been painting a lot, and he's having a solo show at Olt Gallery on May 10th of his paintings. And he's a really amazing painter. So this seemed like a good excuse to have him on the show to try and promote this show. If you are in the area, the show is May 10th at Olt Gallery. It's the same day as the Beksinski tribute show. This is a piece I'm doing for the Beksinski tribute, my Beksinski tribute show, piece for the group show. And so it's going to be both of those shows in at Olt Gallery. So it's one of the coolest shows of the year, for sure. So anyway, I had a really amazing conversation with him. What a cool guy. Amazing person. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. What's been going on with me? Quick update. I'm working on this Beksinski painting, Beksinski tribute painting, for this show that's coming up. I got to get my ass in gear because it's coming right up, May 10th. That's about it. That's my next big deadline. So I'm working on that. That's all that's going on with me, pretty much. I think that's it. Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/darkartsociety. You can join for as little as $1 a month. If you join at the $5 and above level, you get a free coupon code for 30% off a Skull Shop human skull. And, there's one of their human skulls, adolescent skull I've used in a painting before. My granddaughter knocked the tooth out, unfortunately, but it still looks good like that, actually. Amazing. Their skulls are amazing, totally realistic. And if you joined at the $5 and above level, you get a coupon code for that. I think that is it. Oh, if you want to see what's going on in my art life and art world, go to Chet Zar, patreon.com/Chet Zar. You can join that for as little as $1 a month and see everything I'm working on and get first opportunities to buy new products and stuff. So I guess that's it. Let's get on with what you came here for, and that's the Rick Baker interview. It's a really, really great one. Amazing. Had a great time talking. So let's just get on with it. All right, here we go. My interview with Rick Baker. Hope you like it. Hi, Rick.
Hey, Chet. Great to see you. It's been a long time, man.
I know. You too. You look great.
Well, I guess for my age, I do.
No, it's because
I can't believe I'm 74 years old. I'm almost 74 and a half now.
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy.
It happened too fast. Yeah. And all the guys like you that I think are kids, what are you, like 50 something?
57. It's like,
I know it's weird. It's like Norman, I keep thinking of Norman's a kid. He's like, is it 57? I go, fuck, it's like.
Yeah. Well, whenever I think about you, I think of you when I was working at the shop, when I was working at Cinnovation, and it's like, you don't really, even talking to you now, you just seem like the same guy. It's just like, you don't really.
But yeah, well, you're probably older now than I was when you were working for me.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's weird. I remember doing a DVD thing for Schlock, and with John Landis, and we actually did it at the shop up in the old video room up there, and my dad's in schlock, and he's the guy who says bananas, bananas.
Oh, no
He's
way.
yeah. And I watched it, and then I realized, I said, "Fuck, John, I'm older than my dad was then, and now I'm older than he was. I thought he was a grown up,
Right.
It's just like,
That's the thing you realize when you get old, is that like adults are just like kids that are getting older, and we feel the same. You look at
yeah,
old people and it's like, oh, they're this different thing, but they're not. They're just physically older, but they're mentally, it's kind of fucked up in a way.
it is, and it's frightening when you get to be my age. I mean, like when my parents died, death became very real to me, and when my dad, especially because we look so much alike, and I was watching him as this barely living skeleton.
Right.
And it was like, that's me in 20 years, and it's frightening, that's part of like when some of the paintings that I was doing recently, some of them were kind of about my mortality. I didn't necessarily paint my portrait, but I painted an old white-haired guy with a beard,
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
with like, death looming over him, and it's just like, yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah. This is why I mean, my whole angle with this podcast is really to try and promote this idea of dark art and why it's important, and it tends to be marginalized, like monster stuff tends to be marginalized and it's not presented or not considered art, but it is, and it's important art. And that's one of the reasons death is like the most important thing in everybody's life. It's like everybody's afraid of it. It's going to happen to you. It's going to definitely happen to you. And the way that dark art can reflect those feelings, I think it helps people deal with those feelings, kind of process them, or just feel like, oh, I'm not alone and feeling afraid. So there's, it's important. That's one of the reasons it's important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm very aware of it now, and especially where I'm at the age where people, there are so many people that we know that are no longer here.
I know.
Like Matt,
I know. It's crazy.
And I think of Matt every day because I have this stuff around my house, and it's just like, wow. I remember the time when I didn't know any dead people.
Right, I know. Right,
and now I know a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, when my parents died too, my mom, my stepdad, and my biological dad. So it's like, it changes when that happens. It kind of changes everything. It changes your perspective,
Yeah, it does.
But your dad, did he teach you to paint, or are you just kind of natural? Because you really, from your Instagram stuff, you seem like such a natural painter. And I was wondering, it's like, did he teach you?
I did watch my dad paint some early on. I mean, he took a correspondence course.
Oh, wow.
He was always very creative, but it was discouraged in his life. You can't make a living doing that. And it wasn't until I was a sophomore in high school, he decided he was going to try to make a living by selling paintings. And they were tough times. And we lived on my mom's bank salary.
Right.
She was a bank teller salary, and it was a hard time. But he was really happy,
yeah, right.
But it's funny. He painted very differently than the way I paint. In that, a lot of the stuff that he did, he would go out and take slides of. He painted a lot of rocks and waters and flowers and pretty things, and. But he'd take slides of it, and he would usually, for time's sake, project the images and then film it with paint.
That's what my dad did too. He always used tracings all the time.
Yeah, well, so many people do. I mean, like Basil Gogos, I would do that.
I do it sometimes. If I need to.
I do. Yeah, I do as well. I mean, I knew my dad could do it, but it would take longer.
Exactly. It's a time thing.
Yeah. But like when I did my classic monster paintings, I projected and did some basic sketching on the canvas first to get the proportions right and stuff. But I don't find it fun.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of tedious, and it's just like you lose the fun of painting, I think,
I,
so
it,
uh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, like, I've been painting pretty much outside from my head, no reference for the last 18 years or something for the most part. Like, I'll use, if I need a hand or something, I'll take a picture of my hand if it's weird, but generally I'm just kind of making this stuff up. And I recently started painting these skull flower paintings where it's like a skull and then a flower kind of obscuring part of the
Right.
face.
They're very cool, by the way, too.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. And those are like, they've become popular, and it's like I'm projecting those, and it's like and for me now in my career, it's like, oh, this is so fun. This is so fun. It's like a paint by numbers, It's like it's because it's so different than the other way I'm used to painting, which is kind of the way you're painting now, which is just you're just doing it, So I feel like after all that time, it's kind of refreshing for me to just because it's a different way of doing it. But I get what you're saying. There's less freedom there,
Yeah, I mean, all these paintings, when I started this, it was like, when I was painting the classic monsters, are the things that I really care about. And I really wanted it to look like it, exactly like the painting, the photos and things, And there was an element, like a stress level to it in a way, And these, I mean, because I had just finished my work on Halloween, which was months from my Planet of the Apes Halloween that I did last year.
Wow, that was awesome.
Months of prep for that, And then I realized that I'd been retired for 10 years, and there's still some shit sitting in my house that was where I put it 10 years ago. And, I had some rooms organized where I could work, and it's okay, I've got a room I can work in. Now I'm going to work, I'll put that stuff away later. And, it turned out it was 10 years later and I still hadn't done it.
Wow.
So I spent a month or more cleaning and organizing, and I just said, I want to paint and have some fun, because I go in different modes, I was in my mask making mode, and said, I hadn't painted in a while. So I just said, I'm just going to have fun, and I'm just going to start pushing paint around, and it was very freeing, and I didn't really care exactly how it turned out. It was just, I just wanted to do it, and then I just kind of got sucked in and just kept going.
Yeah. It's so funny because to me, it looks like you're just having so much fun. It looks like you've got so much of this, like these unpainted paintings inside of you, and you have to get them out. That's how it feels seeing you like bust things out and crank through them. And, when I started painting when I was working for you. That's when I was like, okay, I'm going to try being a fine artist. And I don't know if you remember, but I'd be there at lunch teaching myself to paint in oils at my desk. And, when I first started, I felt that feeling like it's just so much fun. And it's like, I can't paint fast enough to get the paintings out, and it feels like you're doing that now.
Yeah, no, I remember when you were doing that, and I remember going to a show.
Oh, right.
You and your father, and
oh, yeah, you went to that show. Wow, yeah,
Pasadena or Monrovia or someplace out there, and I thought that was cool. That was it your father or stepfather? That was
my stepdad. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, with my dad, that was the happiest I've ever seen him.
Same with my stepdad. He was so always broke. They died. Yeah. They died poor. But they were both so happy. They just were like, he loved. He painted every single day. He didn't take a day off ever, even when he was, and he wasn't selling that much, especially towards the end. I was trying to kind of help his career, and we were getting him a new fan base. But he was just happy. He was a happy person.
Yeah. Well, it's apparent to me. I mean, like, I don't want this whole conversation to be about death, but like I know that my body's falling apart, and I have arthritis, my hands shake, and I've already had cataract surgery in both my eyes. And I know it's all just downhill from here,
Right.
So that's one reason I work every day, because I know that when the day comes that I can't, it's just going to kill me. I mean, this is, on my Instagram, people go, I thought you retired. And I go, yeah, I retired from the film business.
Right.
I didn't retire from being a creative person.
Yeah.
this is what I do. This is how I have fun. This is what I've done my whole life.
You're an artist. That's what artists do.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the reason I retired, so I could have fun with it again.
Right.
You know, I mean, I never liked having a business, you know, and dealing with all the BS in the film industry was, you know, and especially in the later years, it was just so frustrating.
Right.
And I was just becoming a bitter old fart that I didn't want to be, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm supposed to love this stuff, you know. And you know, again, I mean, I feel like a kid again, you know. I mean, I feel like a 10-year-old again.
It shows.
I wake up every morning, you know, excited to go to my studio and do some stuff, you know. And you know, when I first retired, I was, you know, because the film hours are ridiculous, you know that. You know, I mean, I'm used to 12-hour days, you know. So I was doing 12-hour days, 7 days a week, making stuff, you know. And fortunately, my wife, who's also very creative, she sews and makes all her own clothing, and she's got her studio in her house, and so she's not real needy. She's fine with me being over here.
Right.
You know, we see each other at lunch, we see each other at dinner.
It sounds like me and my wife.
Yeah, you know, we watch TV for a couple hours, and then I'll usually come back and work for a little bit more, you know. And but you know, I'm just living the best life now. You know? And
sounds like it.
And Instagram's basically my audience. You know, I mean, I think every creative person wants people to look at their stuff, you know, and I mean, I was a little concerned about social media because I know how awful people can be, you know. But I've been lucky. People have been pretty nice to me. On I guess they feel sorry for the old man. You know?
No, you're making cool stuff. I mean, what's not to? What are you gonna? What's somebody gonna say to that? You know, you're just making cool monster stuff. It's like, I think to bring it back to this whole dark art thing, I think it's you saying you did this first series of these classic monster paintings, and that they meant something to you. That's how I feel about monsters and this stuff I'm doing too. It's like, or I think all of us in this dark art scene, it's like, I mean, part of my goal as a painter was like, I'm going to present this stuff in an artistic way so that people take it seriously, the way that I took it seriously, the way that I take it seriously. I think, you know, these monsters are so cool and amazing, and they deserve to be presented in a gallery setting or in an artistic, you know, they should be considered art, because it's like, you know this, and I know this, but I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think the best artists in all of the film industry are makeup effects people. They're the most rounded artists, and I just think the best. I mean, there's like in computer animation, there's really talented designers, illustrators, and sculptors, but I feel like the people in the makeup effects industry are the top of the top. I think, you know, I've seen the most amazing stuff at your shop. Really, that's where I kind of saw it all. The best people. It's like, this is art. Incredible art, and I'm like surrounded by it every day at the shop. It's so amazing, and so, you know, another reason I wanted to be successful as a fine artist, because I think all of us are creating art, but it's just not considered fine art. It's considered, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing that I do miss about it. I mean, like I said, I hated having the business. Yeah, but I do miss. I do miss being in a building with a bunch of other creative people.
It was so amazing.
You know, I mean, I had my own private studio upstairs because I was an only child. I'm used to working in a quiet room by myself. but it was so nice to, you know, when you have to walk away to try to get a fresh perspective, to walk out and see a bunch of other cool stuff being done, and just inspiring to see that.
Yeah,
you know? And I do miss that part of it. You know. But,
I could imagine running a business would be a nightmare, because it's like I have to run my thing as a business, because I'm making all my money from fine art, and so I usually have to kind of split my day, but it's much smaller. I can't even imagine running a business like that. Must have been a total nightmare. It was painful.
And, you know, because I mean, I didn't get into this to be a business.
Exactly.
You know, I didn't like. I mean, you know, and that's the problem too when you have people you're trying to keep on. I would have to give some stuff to people to do that I wanted to do,
Right.
but I've been paying them to, and it's like, so I'm just going to pay them to sit there,
Right.
But I mean, I think different than when I worked in the industry, it was different than most of the people that, because I did stuff,
Yeah.
because I wanted to, and
that's why I think everybody who worked for you respected you so much because they knew that you could do it. And that's not true about all the shops that the boss can do it, So it's like you were one of the workers in that way. Like you could do it, and everyone knew you wanted to do it, and you didn't get to do it as much as you wanted to do it because you were steering the ship,
Yeah, and dealing with all the BS.
Yeah.
But now I don't have to, and I'm having a blast.
You won the game. You won the game of life. That's the way I see it.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, that's why I worked hard for all those years.
Yeah, right.
So in my so-called golden years, I could have fun again.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's.
But again, I agree. I mean, I'm always amazed when people say, "Oh, you can paint," or you can sculpt.
Right.
I go, that's part of what I do.
Right.
But, I mean, most of my early, paintings and stuff, I mean, that was, pre-Photoshop and pre all the other things. It was try to convey what the design was going to be for a film,
Right.
And I always liked realistic. I tried to be as realistic about it and stuff, and tight with things, but I mean, these recent paintings, it was more about just going for it and having fun, and I wanted them to be a little more painterly. And a couple of them, I kind of got stuck back in the mode of getting with little brushes and stuff, But I wanted to go for loose and fast and furious.
Yeah. I think that's a thing with. I noticed this with like effects people who paint and tattoo artists that paint is that we have this tendency to want to be tight all the time. And I think it's because, especially with sculpting, it was, all about the, final
every little pore.
Yeah. And I loved that stuff. I was always totally into that stuff. So it's always been a struggle for me to stay loose. So it's always been a thing I've been trying to push myself, but it depends on what you're going for. The flower painting, skull flowers are very tight, and I just I love it. I think it's fun too. There's a place for both of them.
Oh no, I do love the tight stuff myself, and because those are the kind of paintings I like too.
Right? Yeah.
But I also like loose stuff.
Yeah. Me too.
And but I have to force myself, and a couple times it's just like, okay, you need to walk away now, Rick. And usually I come back like the next day and go, well, maybe I walked away a little too soon. I'll do a little bit here. But I mean, one reason I paint in acrylics mostly. For one, my handshake, and I never was good at using one of those sticks, so you don't. So if I paint in oil, I end up resting my hand on the canvas and blurring out stuff, and then I get that stuff all over me, So with acrylics, I mean, I'll usually touch my finger on the canvas, paint. I usually screw up a little bit with that, but you can glaze a color on it a few seconds after you put down some values. Oils, you have to wait, until it's dry, So but, you have the advantage. What I do like about oils is you can blend and for so much better.
Yeah, blending and glazing. I feel like blending and glazing are the two advantages to oil that you can't. I mean, you can do it in acrylic, but not as easily.
Not as well.
Yeah. So, I started off in acrylic. The first painting I ever did was in the makeup trailer on Planet of the Apes. Did you know that? Yeah, I had a little sketchbook, because those were like 12-hour days, and I was just supposed to be repairing gloves. There was a fight scene. There was like a big battle, and I had to just like touch up the gloves. They'd bring them to touch up, then they'd go back out, and I was just waiting for the next round. So I was like, I had been thinking about trying to get into fine art and be a painter around that time. And so I had all these acrylic paints for the making my PAX paint for the gorilla hands. And I had this sketch pad, and I was like, I'm going to try and paint a painting. It was like 6x8. If I can do it and it looks good. I'm going to really go for it. And so I sat there and I painted this little weird picture, and it was good. And I ended up selling it to Hiroshi for $100, which I shouldn't have done, but he's cool. So, but that was like the moment I proved that I could do it. Like I could do it just without not knowing with anything. And so it was from there that I went on and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
I actually did some paintings in the makeup trailer on the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because, there's like downtime, it's so boring. And I did one of my ape, the one I was in. And that's the same scene that you were in, yeah. And,
right.
and those weird rock formations of Trona or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Desert. I remember, that was really cool. It's one of the things that I do miss about the film industry is that, there's so many creative people. The ones they usually call the below the line people, which, kind of pisses me off, but and they're the ones that care about the work.
Yeah.
And it's important to them that the work look good. It's not about just making a bunch of money.
No.
And like the above the line people, that's what they think about.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just fun to, like when I remember going out to Trona and seeing that wrecked spaceship thing that Rick Heinrichs designed that looked like a Basinski painting, and just to be standing there in that weird environment, or like when I was working on the Wolfman, it was like time traveling. We were in England and people are on horseback in period costumes.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And all that stuff is amazing.
I remember going on the Haunted Mansion, the zombie crypt set when we did those zombies. That was so cool, just walking in there. I mean, the sets are so, even though the movie was...
Well, the movie was not very good, but the sets were good.
Incredible. And the makeup effects were amazing. It was like...
Which they didn't use most of the makeup, so we did. It was so disappointing.
I know, it was a bummer. But that's that was one of the big disappointments of effects. Because, I, like you, started when I was like 12. I sculpted my first mask. I was just... as soon as I latched on to makeup effects, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for my job. and all through high school, I was taking pictures for a portfolio, and it was like for that deep love of the craft, I guess, of makeup effects, and getting to a point where you're in for 10, 15 years in the business. And, I often have talked about it where it's like you're going, you're telling the higher ups, like, you're trying to make them something amazing because you love it. You're not there for the paycheck. It's like, we all have to have a paycheck. So we chose a job where we can do what we love for the paycheck, but we're there for the love of the thing. And so it makes you've got someone above, a executive or whatever, making you make the product lamer. And you're like, I'm trying to make this better for you. Don't you understand? Yeah. I'm trying to make your movie amazing because I love this shit. And it makes you feel like you're going crazy when you're fighting with your boss about, or the person who's, you're paying the whole crew. You're like fighting with them to try and make a better thing. And they're like paying you to make a lamer thing. It makes you feel like you're going insane. Like, why am I doing this?
Well, that's it. When you have every film now has like 47 producers,
right?
And they all want to have an opinion, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Yep. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've said, I don't understand why you hired me,
right.
And they say, well, you did American Werewolf. And I said, let me tell you this, on American Werewolf, John Landis said, you know what you're doing. I just want it to be a hound from hell,
that's
just
amazing.
Go make it, and I go, what's a Nazi demon? He goes, I don't know, you make it, So
that is so cool.
The first sculpture that I did is what was in the film,
right.
It wasn't like 1,000 variations, tiny variations that you don't even know what the difference is when you look at it, and after you've had your enthusiasm and soul sucked out, and then you don't have the time left to do it right.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, just trust that we can do, cause like you said, we do it from love,
right.
And we want it to be the best we can. Yep. And they just get in there and slow down and screw up the process, and you come out with not as good stuff. And that's the reason I retired. I mean, if they would let me just do my job, I probably would have kept doing it.
Right.
But it wasn't that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I decided to transition out and become a fine artist, because I felt like dealing with that all the time was just hurts. It hurts.
Oh, yeah.
And it's frustrating. And then I felt like, well, the only thing I could really do to go, I'm sculpting at Rick Baker's. It's like, where do you go from there? It's like, start your own shop. There's no way in hell I'm going to start my own shop. Yeah. No, I just was like, that's got to be a nightmare. Because I did some effects gigs for the Tool videos and stuff. That's like, that was not, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at running a shop or being a business person, really. So it's like, that seemed like the only other thing for me to do is where I could like just not have those creative shackles. Like I'll live or die on my decisions and what I create, and it's not about pleasing anyone other than myself, kind of,
No, again, and that's why I'm having so much fun, because I'm not dealing with that stuff.
Yeah.
And the only asshole I have to deal with is myself. So.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Your feed, your Instagram feed, since you started it, has just been so much fun to watch. Like, I'm just like, oh man, this guy's having the best life ever. Just like making masks. I think I'll make, this today, or I'll make a little movie with the figure. It's doing After Effects, and it's so cool. It was so cool. But I'm so happy to see you painting. I'm really happy because I saw you showed me a painting, I think, of your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I had that moment. Like, you can paint, like, because not everybody, Mitch can't paint, Mitch always says painting is way harder because you're dealing with the illusion of depth, whereas sculpture is easier because you're actually, what you see is what you get, and you don't have that illusion factor. And I thought that was
but I also think sculptors, I mean, I've approached my paintings, especially these recent ones, more like a sculpture.
Yeah.
I just block it out with something,
totally.
And then, if I add and subtract, or, and okay, this part isn't working, I'll just wipe that out and do that again, and I mean, my process is more like, I just want to get started, get something on there, and then fix it. Find my mistakes and try to fix them.
Yeah, well,
and some of the mistakes, sometimes it's like, oh, I like that. That wasn't what I was going for, but it's better.
Totally. Yeah, that's the fun. The fun part is you're never quite sure how it's going to turn out, and it's. I think it seems like it's like this with you, and probably a lot of painters, but it's like this for me, where with painting, it's like you're kind of like. You're holding a lantern in the dark and you could see like a couple feet ahead of you, but that's about it. So you have to get like something down, and then you can move forward to see a couple feet more. And so the more you start painting, the more you can see the idea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So do you ever feel like the painting like takes on a life of its own? I mean, like there's times I'm painting and I'm just kind of, I mean, it almost sounds like I'm trying to be religious about this, but it's like almost like somebody else's hand is doing it,
Yeah.
It's just like, and that's cool.
That's when it's at its best. I've said this many times. I have put it into a religious context on this podcast. Like, to me, it's painting or any kind of art is a spiritual practice, because if you think of like what are the aims of religion or spiritual practices, it is to usually to exalt this higher power and kind of lower your own ego, and you kind of do that like the easel's the altar. You're kind of worshiping the art god in a way. You're making like an offering to the art god with your painting, and you're keeping your own kind of ego out of the way so that you can let this higher thing work through you to create something amazing. And it's almost like a relationship with whatever this spiritual thing that makes cool paintings is. That's how it feels to me anyway.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I did a couple a couple paintings that I'm having in this show that's probably going to piss a few people off.
Why is that?
Well, if they're deeply religious, I mean, I personally, my God, I think, has a sense of humor.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And I did a baby Jesus painting, but I gave him a beard and a crown of thorns.
Oh, that's great.
and stigmata, I'm sure I have some friends that are deeply religious that are probably going to go to the show, and they'll probably never talk to me again now. So,
You just tell them it's only a painting. It's all. It's just some paint on a flat surface.
God told me to.
Yeah, exactly. This was directly channeled from God.
You ever see that movie? God Told Me to.
I know
Larry Cohen.
I know the name of it, but no, I never saw it. I know of it.
It's Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen. I did It's Alive with Larry Cohen and Black Caesar and a number of films, and it was usually, he'd call me up on the day he needed something, and come to everything was filmed in his house. Come to my house now, bring your makeup kit. What do you need? Just come, and then it's like, like when Black Caesar, it was like an early blaxploitation film. I get there and like everybody in the house is black, and I go, "What's going on, Larry?" And he goes, "We're doing a film," and he goes, "I need you to put some bullet holes and a beard on this guy." And I go, "I just wish you would have told me that so I could have restocked my kit." Fortunately, I had a couple of colors for African American colors, but it was limited.
Right. Yeah.
But he called me up about this movie, God Told Me to, and I ended up not doing it. I think Steve Neal did it in the end. But yeah, Larry wrote some clever films, I think. He was like a one man show. He would steal shots. I mean, everything he did he never got permits for. And
really?
He was on Q, which is that flying serpent that lives on the Chrysler Building. They were shooting off machine guns on the top of the Chrysler Building. The shells were like falling down and hitting pedestrians. Doing it without permits.
Yeah. You can't get away with that nowadays, I don't think.
No.
It's like Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, where they shot it in that mall. It's like, they were shooting in a functioning mall during the night. And it's like, can you imagine like wiping up the motorcycle tracks, the stuff on the motorcycle, and the blood and everything? Yeah. You just couldn't get away with it nowadays.
No, that's it. I've shot in people, especially in my old independent film days, shot in a number of people's homes and filmed in their homes. And they're never the same.
Right.
And I've had people ask to use my house to film, and there's no way. No, I've done it. I know the damage is going to be done.
Yeah. So. People putting cigarettes out on the floor and stuff. Well, about your show, I'm so happy. Like I said, I'm so happy that you started painting, because as a painter, back in the day, I saw what a great painter you were from that portrait of your dad. And I was like, man, I wish you would paint, because I'm a painter. I love paintings, and you love to see it. And we also need another dark art person in our, someone else to support the whole thing, because this is important. This work's important. And so but I'm also so happy that you got hooked up with Copro, because they're like the best place to show that kind of work. And Gary and Erica are honest and great people. And it's like, you could have, I'm glad you didn't get hooked up with another gallery that's going to fuck you over and make you not want to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've been there a couple of times, I think, to see your stuff too. I've been a number of shows there, and it was weird. Gary contacted me. He saw the paintings I was doing on Instagram, and just said, "We'd like to do a show with you," and I mean, the funny thing was, though, when I said yes to it, and then I had some pieces at the
LA Art Show.
The LA Art Show, and but once he said that, and I was still painting, it kind of changed. It almost made it less fun, because I had a purpose for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't just
there's some pressure there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now somebody's going to actually see this and maybe buy it or something, and and it made it different, but I got to say, dealing with them has been great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're amazing.
yeah, yeah. And then, but
Yeah.
I also, ever since, I mean, I've always been kind of introverted, anyways, and like I said, an only child, grew up in my bedroom by myself. Uh, I've got a house that's my studio, that's next door to my house that I live in, but I'm pretty much in a room by myself 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, I was in it more,
Yeah.
and not going out. And I've almost become one of those people that doesn't want to leave the house, even though I've always kind of been that way.
Same here. Yep. Same
Yeah.
here.
But to be also, I'm kind of having some stress about the art show. I have to
Mm.
be there and be around a bunch of people and talk.
Yeah, I know. That's just kind of comes with the territory, but it's,
Yeah.
people are there because they love your work and they love you. So it's a lot of people showing you love. You're used to that when you go to conventions and stuff anyway, but it's like, it's kind of like work. That it's like crowd work. It's like, you have to, you don't want to like leave anyone feeling bad, like you didn't pay attention to them. So you have to kind of, but that's just part of the deal. That's part of the deal.
Right.
And plus you'll see all these people loving your work, which is kind of gratifying,
I hope so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been to Monster Palooza in years now because
Same here.
I can't go anywhere. I mean, I get there and then
Oh, I
I
bet.
get people around me, and
Yeah.
then it's like, back when Mike Hill was always doing this cool stuff, I go, I want to get over to see Mike Hill stuff, and half the time I never even made it there.
Yeah.
Eventually had to leave because I was getting freaked out,
Yeah. You have to pull a Guillermo and go Guillermo del Toro and go early. Like that's what he used to do.
Yeah.
Before it opened.
Yeah. I did that once, but half the people were still setting up.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think it's so cool that you're having a gallery show, and hopefully the experience will be good for you, because I want to see more. I want to see more gallery shows with you.
More weird stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having fun. I mean, it's getting close to time for me to start for Halloween stuff now, so I'll probably have to.
Oh wow.
Stop painting. So, well, I mean, actually, my daughter Rebecca is getting married close to Halloween, which is going to. So I'm trying to start some. Maybe I figured maybe this Halloween I wasn't going to do something, and I said it to Rebecca yesterday. We went to an Easter thing, and I said, "Yeah, I think this year will be a non-Halloween year." And she goes, "No, no, we have to do a Halloween." I go, "No, but you're getting married close to Halloween, and we're having a party in our yard, and I can't be having my set out and stuff and my Halloween mess, And she goes, "I don't care. We're doing Halloween."
Oh, that's excellent.
So it's like, and it's funny. It used to be, I would just do what I wanted when the kids were little. Okay, this is what you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do the monsters this year. You're going to be Eddie Munster because I don't have another boy, and I'll make you a boy. But then they started having opinions, and
Right.
and it became a lot more difficult to have like a theme that had an older man and woman and two younger women. How do you make a theme?
Right. Right.
And it was like it gets harder every year, so we have meetings, and my wife Sylvia doesn't like wearing appliances, and she wants to look pretty.
Yeah, right.
And Veronica was like that for a while, but she started embracing wearing the makeups more. But Rebecca wants to be really grotesque. It's funny. She's a social worker, she's really, really kind-hearted, beautiful person, but she likes scaring the crap out of people. Likes to be gross, So
right.
how do we make it? What do we do that works?
Right.
So that's about the hardest part of it. Really,
Yeah. That's so cool though. What a wholesome family thing to do too,
Well, I mean, they didn't have a choice. As soon as they were born, I started making them up,
I know. I used to, of course I used to do my kids' Halloween costume. And one year I had to convince him to do this one because he didn't want to do it. Cause I'm like, it was a clown, a regular happy clown. And I cast his face. He was like 9 or 10. And so I cast his face like basically he had a duplicate of his face, like a latex mask over his face, and I painted it like a clown. And so I had to convince him, I'm like, trust me, this will be awesome. He's like, I don't want to go as a clown. But the trick was I had like a little flap that he could bite onto to hold the face on. And as soon as he let it go, I had his face painted with like muscle. So it's like his face would fall off. So he was like so hesitant because he was like looking like a clown. And it's like a little boy who's 9 or 10 doesn't want to walk around like a clown. And he's walking to school. I dropped him off and there's these little kindergartners standing at the fence, and he walked and he just turned and looked at him and held his hand out and dropped his face out in his hand, and they all went, ah! And then he was like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm like, I told you to trust me.
Yeah.
It's so fun making your kids up, you know?
It is. Yeah. And like I said, my daughter Rebecca really embraces it, you know?
Yeah. That's so cool.
And Veronica too. I mean, Veronica has come a long ways with it. I mean, and I think it started when because, you know, I'd make them up to go to school, you know, and that was hard because they'd have to get to school at 7. And,
yeah, right.
You know, I remember when Veronica was in, I think in kindergarten or the first grade or something, they did her as Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, you know, and Sylvia made the costume. And I thought, boy, I hope I'm not going to make her be like the only geek that's in a costume at school, right. You know? Yeah, and the school did embrace Halloween, and they had like a costume parade and stuff. I don't think any was as elaborate as what we did, you know. And it's actually I have a picture of her in the playground in the makeup that I did, and Sally standing next to somebody with a cowboy hat on and somebody in a Spider-Man suit, you know that. And I always say, which one is Rick Baker's daughter? You know? But you know, she worked for a number of years at Bad Robot at J.J. Abrams' company, and she went to work as a Bride of Frankenstein. You know,
cool.
And got a lot of people who liked it. So she, you know, then when she worked at DC, and we did the year they did the different Jokers, and they did her as the Killing Joke Joker.
Oh yeah. And,
you know, I made some big teeth for her, and she went to DC, you know, like the Joker. And,
cool.
And so it's like, okay, I can do this, and I get it now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like when we were kids, you start getting positive attention for it when you're a kid, and you're like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, I've heard your stories also about you. Talking about how shy you were as a kid, and when you put a mask on, you're allowed you to sort of be a different character. And it's like, that was so me. I was so shy when I was a kid, but I would go, I would put masks on with my mom. My mom was cool, so she let me wear masks when I go to the grocery store with her. And I would just I'd be like, you know, I wasn't afraid of people then. It was such a weird transformative thing. And then that's like I don't know. It's a trip. You think about like ancient cultures wearing masks and part of their rituals and stuff. And there's something to it. There's something on this deeper level to wearing masks, I think. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, even just the first time I smeared white grease paint on my face and, you know, put black circles around my eyes. Yeah. It wasn't me, you know, and when you're looking at that face in the mirror and it's not you, and you're like hidden, you know, so you can do. Yeah, and it really helped me overcome my shyness and stuff. I mean, I couldn't look at a grown up and talk.
You're not going to beat me in the shy. I think we're both on this shyness level that's beyond. Like, I didn't like answering the phone when I was a kid.
I still don't like answering the phone.
But I'm so with you. I was really bad. Like, it was painful just to deal with any adult that I didn't know in any way. It was painful. So I know what you're saying. And
no, it's also funny when I first started dating Sylvia, because she's very vivacious and bubbly, and we went out to dinner with some of her friends, and I don't think I said anything all night, you know. And they said, "Is he okay?" You know, it's like, does he not know how to talk? You know, it's like,
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of comes with the territory. I know I've interviewed so many artists on the show now. I'm like 300, over 300, I think. And most of them are really shy or were shy as kids, so it's not uncommon. Most of them like to be alone or are okay to be alone. Like, I don't know. I assume that you feel good being alone in your studio and creating work. It's like, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this is
Total
my happy
peace.
place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And some people aren't like that. They need to be out amongst people. But my mom was like that also. She was very much happy to be alone, and it feels comfortable to me.
Yeah, and my brain short circuits when there's other people talking and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I could never have a job in a cubicle with other people on the phone and stuff. I
No.
mean, and I've had a hard time, like when you do go to a movie premiere and you have to do a red carpet thing and someone's interviewing you and
Yeah, that must
there's
be
people on either
difficult.
side talking. And I mean, we were at a friend's wedding in Australia recently, and it was like 200 people in a restaurant talking all at once, and I had to get up and leave. It was just like, but what was cool, it was like, I mean, I was starting to really kind of freak out, and I just said, I mean, Sylvia is used to it now. She just knows.
Right.
I mean, I got up and I walked outside, but it's Australia, and there was a tree outside of this restaurant full of fruit bats.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, oh, cool! Look how cool they are. So like put me in a completely different mood, and I was watching him for a while, and then I came back in the restaurant with a big ass smile on my face, and Miss Sylvia was like, "What happened?" I go, "There's fruit bats outside," and there was a couple other people at the wedding that were kind of a little freaked out. I go, "Come look at the fruit bats,"
Yeah, only a monster kid would truly appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're so cool. I mean, yeah, it sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. I feel like in some ways we have some cross wiring in our brains to where we are attracted to things that repel other people in some weird way, but it's never it's never bad stuff. It's always like more like weird or traditionally ugly, but it's not like anyone. I always say this, the dark art people are the nicest people. They're so kind and animal lovers and sweet, treat people well. If anything, they get taken advantage of more easily because they're trusting. And I just find that so interesting that we love this kind of dark imagery, but we also are nicer than average.
Yeah, no, I agree. I found the same thing, and I often thought, I mean, I wish everybody was like this.
I know.
The problem is, if everybody was, probably nothing else would get done.
Right.
I mean, you do need people to be in offices and deal with that kind of stuff,
True.
But you think, people on the outside that don't know probably think we're like Satanists and and murderers and things, and I mean, I pass out at the sight of blood, know, and I people will send me my friends, the late Kathy Burns, Bob Burns' wife, Bob fell down and hit his head. Here's a picture, and they go, I don't want to see that.
Oh.
It's like, especially somebody that I love, I don't want to see him injured, but I don't, I remember when I went to a junior college after high school to try to stay out of Vietnam. And in the college library, they had a plastic surgery book. And I went, oh, cool. Book with some reference stuff. And that was like first time I saw somebody without a nose,
Right.
And it was like, horrified me, and there's some images in there. I just, okay, I can't look at that stuff,
Right,
then,
yeah.
When I did, I think it was Greystoke. There's a huge bookstore in in London that had a bunch of medical books. So I bought like a whole library of forensic pathology and different kind of things as reference stuff. And then I looked at it and I go, I can't look at this shit. I've got them kind of locked up here somewhere.
Right.
Actually, I was actually asking some of my makeup effects friends if they wanted them, because I said, I'd rather make it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm more sensitive to it with now that I'm older. Like I used to be able to look at that stuff when I was younger, and I don't like to look at it now. Kind of, I feel like I've gotten more sensitive to that as I've gotten older. Yeah, it's. But the thing,
well, I mean, also, I'm not a big like splatter movie fan.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't mind, you know, if it's like, you know, like Brain Dead, like Peter Jackson's film, really gory stuff. You know, guy with a lawnmower job.
Yeah.
But it's like the fantasy. You know, like there were zombies, and it was done with a sense of humor. You know?
Yeah.
It's different than like a psycho person killing another a teenager.
Yeah.
You know,
sadistic kind of.
Zombies. Yeah. I mean, if it's a zombie getting killed, that's fine. You know?
That's great. It's fun.
Hey, have you ever seen? I got this One Cut of the Dead shirt on today. Have you ever seen that movie?
No. What is it?
Oh, you got to watch it. It's.
I'm gonna write it down.
One Cut of the Dead.
One Cut of the Dead.
Yeah, it's apparently it was a student film from like a Japanese film college. That showed at some festivals and people liked it, and it got released. It looks real cheesy at first, especially, and you're watching this, looks like a really crappy like zombie movie with some really weird moments where people just kind of pause and look over to the side for a minute and then come back and go, "Do you have any hobbies?" You know, something that just doesn't make sense. You know. And then it's like, that's the first act, which is like the film. The second act is how it came about. And it's all in subtitles, unfortunately. And I'm a bad reader. I had to watch it a few times, but it's a television company wants to do a live zombie Holocaust like broadcast thing, you know, and they go to this guy that says, you know, I'm not really very talented, you know, but I can do it, you know, and then it goes and shows what it took to try to get this together. And then the last act is them actually filming it. And then you understand what the weird pauses are. Because, you know, like one of the guys gets drunk and doesn't come in where he's supposed to.
That's so interesting.
And you see somebody holding up a sign going, "Stall." You know, and,
that's great.
And it's fun. It's not. I just thought it was clever.
Yeah, it sounds very clever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's on Shudder, I think. So.
Oh, okay. I'll definitely watch it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to say, you know, it's funny because, you know, talking about violence and gore and stuff like that, knowing how it's made, I was always able to not be disturbed by it in movies because no matter how real it was, I knew it was Caro syrup blood. And, do you feel that way with seeing stuff in movies?
No, if it's well done, I mean, if the movie's well done, it's more about the filmmaking than the blood stuff. You know what I mean? If it's set up right and everything else, I mean, there's some things that I just won't watch some of the stuff, you know.
What about
some?
No, go ahead.
No, I do Pilates with some friends, and they were talking about a new show. It's called The Pit, I think. It's about an emergency room, and I go, I can't watch that. I can't watch that. You know,
wow.
That's not, I mean, I'm so afraid of hospitals and, and doctors and hurting myself. You know, and I don't like to know. I don't like to see people in pain and in those situations. So I can't watch it.
It made me think of the you know, you've made some pretty gory things in your career like that. One of my favorite things that came out of Cinnovation as far as the gore effect is that tumor thing out of that guy's head on Videodrome. That is so amazing and so cool and so gross at the same time. It's like,
that's funny.
You made it so you can't be, it doesn't make you sick when you see it, does it?
No, it's our own stuff. And again, that was kind of a fantasy thing too.
True. It looks so real though and gross. It's so nasty.
But and again, in like Jack's
right.
American Werewolf's wound, yeah, I've done it, and I've done gory films. But again, when you're talking about people, the dark art people being nice and stuff, David Cronenberg, makes the sickest, weirdest, saddest
Yeah.
movies. Videodrome was a really crazy one too.
Yeah.
And you would expect him to be this like really creepy, weird guy. He's like a college professor. He's incredibly brilliant,
Right.
and basically very normal and nice, and
Yeah.
not, again, not what you would suspect, and but what was great about collaborating with him, because I really enjoyed reading that script, and I said, "There's stuff in here I don't think I can do."
Wow.
I said, I don't think this can be done the way that it's written, but I would say, but I think we can do it this way, and so I mean, the way it was written, the cancer gun, like it grew on the surface of there and grew up all over them, and we tried a couple things. We did the swelling up foam stuff.
Yeah.
I had Doug Beswick animate a thing. But then I said, what if it goes into them and then breaks out of them, and we can do it that way, but I really enjoyed collaborating with him. He was really, he would listen to what I had to say, and I would listen to what he had to say, and we would work out a way to make it work,
That's cool. Yeah. That's
and that doesn't always happen.
That's what I was going to say, is like, that's few and far between where you get that, the kind of director that trusts you to do your thing and wants to work with you and, cares about the movie, I think, is the bottom line. When you've got people that care more about the money is when that's the issue. And it's like, I kind of understand it in a way, because it's like, they're probably thinking about their jobs. A lot of money is being spent on these films. It's like, it took me a long time to really kind of try and see it from their perspective. So I get the fear. I understand why they're afraid. That doesn't excuse their crappy behavior, though, and their micromanaging.
No, trust the guy that you hired.
Exactly.
You said, you hired me because I did American Werewolf. But again, like this thing I liked about working with John, you knew what you were going to do every day. And like I said, he gave me like total creative freedom to make this stuff. But again, we collaborated, the transformation, we storyboarded it all and worked everything out. And when we shot in Piccadilly Circus, the bus crash and all that stuff, we only had a couple hours allowed to be able to film there.
Wow.
And had to clean up the mess too, and he's organized, and you go to work knowing what you're going to do, and you do it,
Right.
And we talked about the transformation, and I said, some of these makeups are going to take a really long time, and you're just going to be having a crew wait around. And he said, well, let's shoot it all in post. The set will be pre-lit. We'll have a smaller crew. You could spend 10 hours doing a makeup if you need to.
Awesome.
We'll shoot that. We'll shoot that part. We'll come back the next day and shoot the other part, or these cool 4 parts. And I said too, David, got progressively hairier, and David Naughton wasn't hairy at all. And I said, if we do it in sequence, if I just lay some short hair on there, then I'm going to have to take that off and lay some longer hair on there and take that off. It would make a lot more sense to do the hairiest thing first. I could pull hair off and trim it, pull hair off and trim it. And that's how he did it.
That never happens. It's always shoot the close up at the end of the day instead of the beginning of the day. It's like it's almost like every time there's a certain way to shoot the effect that's best for the film, they do the opposite.
I know. I'm convinced there's a book that says how to screw over the makeup effects guys. It's happening all the time. And they're always afraid of dealing with these shots. And they'll shoot a bunch of other stuff, and then it's like, okay, we only got 15 minutes left. Now let's shoot the big money shot. Okay, you got one take. And I remember I did some really crappy independent film in Arizona, and a guy was supposed to be thrown out of a ice cream truck and rolled down the road, and I made some appliances for him and some stuff, and we're filming outside in daylight, and it's like you see the sun's like about halfway behind the mountain, and it's like, okay, it's time to do that shot now. And I go, I can't do it. The sun's gonna be down before I put these makeups on. He goes, well, we got to shoot this. You got it. I go, God damn it. I guess I got some Kleenex and put blood on it and threw it on the guy. And I go, there. And it actually looked really good, And it was like, wow, that actually was better than the lines were going to be. So, but I mean, it happened so many times, and it had been, I will say, we can't shoot it right in this amount of time, and I said, why don't we shoot it in post, and they go, well, we can't do it. It'll never match. And one of the things that I always bring up, did you see Star Wars? And they go, yeah, and I go, the Cantina band that's in there playing in the Cantina? Yeah. They were never there. They were never in England. They were never with Harrison Ford. Oh, wow. It was shot by a whole different crew months later in America.
Wow.
As well as most of the aliens that are there were shot by a different crew. Did you know that? No. So that means we can shoot this thing in post and do it right. Yeah. And it's just, well, no, fuck you, we're doing it now anyways.
Yeah. What do you know? You're just a makeup guy.
Yeah. You just work for months to try to make this effect really cool. We're going to give you one take at the end of the day. So.
I wonder if that's part of the chip on my shoulder for feeling like dark art is marginalized, is because the career I came up in is kind of a marginalized career. Like, the running joke of effects, people being listed below craft services and stuff, that happens so often where we're like way down on the list, not for someone like you that gets, a big credit, but, probably in the early days. And for, a lot of people, it's like, it just never felt respected.
No,
it's like, we're doing the coolest shit out of anybody here, and it's not respected. It's so weird.
No, and mind you, I had to fight for that.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And I fight for crew credits and stuff.
Yeah.
And what pisses me off now is like, okay, well, we can give you like 6 credits, 6 crew credits. They go, but I had 25 people, and you get 6 credits. You watch the visual effects.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
It goes on for 20 minutes.
Why is that?
I don't know, but I mean, again, it was, people, it's because, we both grew up, loving monster movies and that stuff, and they were looked down upon, but it's crazy, the attitude about that, because and again, people just don't understand what goes into it.
Yeah.
They don't, and it's so much work. And like you said, we are coming from a place of love for it, and want it to be the best.
Yeah. I have to say, working at Cinnovation was my best work career. My favorite part of my career. It was so much fun, and it's funny because I was at the other shop I was at for like 10 years, and I was sort of like the lead art guy. And I thought I was kind of a badass. And then I got to work at your shop, and I was like, oh man, I'm not the shit. It's like, this is the shit. And I immediately I'm going to set up next to Mitch so I can learn his detailing stuff and just learn everything from him. And he was like, so, how he is, he's like super helpful and he's really good about anybody has a question. He will show them how he does it. But it was amazing for me to come there and work. It was a whole different world for me. It was just like,
well, again, I mean, I wanted to try to make it a place where creative people could be creative too. I mean, my very first job I ever had was at Cloaky Productions, a place that made Gumby and Davy and Goliath. And the first thing I did was they had me sculpt a new body for the mother character on Davy. And I sculpted the body and I showed it to the production manager guy, and the first thing he did is start pushing his fingers in it and pushing it around, and go, no, we got to make it more like this, and it was like, oh, that kind of hurt, So, I mean, I try not to do that, with them, and I also, I mean, it's, I want people to make it feel that they're part of it and they're contributing to it. And if I go in there and change everything that they do, it's like, you don't get that,
Yeah. No,
I think you get the best work out of people if you let them have a little creative freedom,
Yeah. You treated the people working for you like you hope that directors will treat effects people in this, let them do their thing. It was great, but it was not only that, it was the amount of talent. It was knowing that the boss could do it. Like I said, that's kind of big for people that care about what they're doing. It's like knowing that the boss could do it, could be down here if he wanted to, doing it was kind of, I don't know. You just you want to please the boss when that's the boss. You know what I mean? But also it was like, it felt like the only shop I'd ever been to that felt like an old art atelier, like the cast, just, it felt like an art studio. It didn't feel like an effects studio, especially the sculpting department. It really felt like an old school, like you see those old pictures with the high ceilings of, these guys sculpting with a model. It felt like that, it had that vibe. And it was like, oh man, I didn't know what I was missing. It was so cool.
It's funny how you're talking about Mitch, when now, I mean, everybody does. I'm amazed at how much great work is being done now.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, there's people all over the world doing really brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I did Greystoke in England, I brought Steve Johnson and a number of the guys, and Gunnar, the mold maker that I trusted, and there were some good mold makers, and there were some really talented sculptors, but they were great at form, but they didn't know anything about finishing this stuff. And I would show them pictures. I showed them the troll, my troll.
Right, the troll. The troll is classic.
And cut to when I was doing the Wolfman, they had all like Mitch Devane tools.
I know. It's crazy.
The brass tubing and the saw blades and the bass guitar blades and all that stuff. Exactly the same stuff, And I went, do you even know where that came from? Who started that? And I gave them a little education about it. But I mean, everybody, there's just really beautiful makeups being done now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think silicone helps a lot, making it more realistic and stuff. But I'm just so pleased that so much is going on, and also pleased that there's so many people doing makeups on Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them you couldn't use in a film. They're made from straight on but some really talented, really clever things. And then I started following some of these people doing those things, and then it's like, well, who did that one first? Because they'll see somebody else do makeup, they'll copy it, and then other people copy it, and you don't know who was the originator of it. But also the thing is, they don't know, and same with the makeup schools. I mean, so many makeup schools turning out people, but they don't know the history.
Right.
A lot of them don't know who Dick Smith is. They don't know who I am.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's so
or Jack Pierce. I mean. But they know the internet,
right?
A lot of the people going to makeup schools wanted to be the internet makeup people.
Yeah. It's weird. I suppose that's the way life goes, though. But I didn't have to do any research before interviewing you. Normally, I'll research an artist because I don't know. It's like I know your history. I know all my history of makeup effects. I was studying that shit when I was 14 or 15, and you could find any book you could find. You'd have to go to the library or buy a book to try and find any information on this stuff. I
don't think people understand it now.
No.
I mean, especially, and I'm, 20 years older than you or whatever. And it was.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it in the 70s. I was thinking about that. Like, did you find?
No,
latex?
But I mean, it was in the 60s. It was in the 60s when I started.
Right. That's true.
And I went to a library and I looked through the card thing, which I don't know if they have anymore. And they had Richard Clorison's stage makeup book.
Yeah, that was one I'm reading too.
It's a great book, actually.
It is.
Yeah. But it didn't. This was like the first edition. I think it's come a long way since then. Didn't get into a lot of stuff that I liked.
Right? Yeah.
But it was so hard to just find stuff, and I found a book, Carl Dane Clark, I think was the name of a book on molding and casting.
Wow!
Oh, how cool is this? And then when you try to find materials, you'd have to go all over the place.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
No, it was a whole different thing.
It was hard in the 80s. When I was starting early, like 1980, 1981, and living in San Pedro, It's like, where the hell do you get ultracal from, or dental stone, or alginate, or any of that stuff?
No, in my early films, I would have to drive all over creation to get to different materials,
Right.
and there wasn't like motion picture effects,
Right. I know. These kids don't know how good they got it.
No. And also, I wonder how to do makeup. You type it in, you can watch a YouTube video, not always giving the right information,
Yeah,
but,
right.
but it's so accessible. But it's funny because it's like, if I see something on Instagram of somebody's work that I like, I'll actually go to their site or whatever you call it and look at what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
People, I don't think younger people do that.
Yeah,
they'll scroll
right.
through
Yeah.
it. They may like it,
Yeah.
but they don't check out what the other stuff
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. That's part of the, lack of attention span that's social media creates. It's kind of a bummer. I mean, that's
I've seen a number of your videos ragging on Instagram's algorithm.
It's the only way I could get any traction. It's so fun. It's so ironic. It's like, I did it kind of as a joke at first, but I really felt the anger, and I was just like, I can't think of any other way to do it. And so I posted one, and it got 50 times more views than anything any cool time lapse of painting. I'm like making these amazing paintings and doing time lapses, and it's like, people are going to love this. It's like, it hardly gets any views. And then I just do a video where I'm shitting on the Instagram algorithm, and it gets like 100,000 views. I'm like, this is so fucked up.
No, I know it's the same thing. I mean, it's for, I was doing the time lapse. I stopped doing them just because if I just posted a picture of me talking, a video of me talking, I get more views, The funny thing is, and the same thing like with the Halloween stuff, like I'll work for like 4 months on Halloween and then post it and get like 1,000 likes, and it's like, and it was 4 months work, and I did as a joke, one day all those people who like turn the canvases around.
Yeah, you're painting.
So I painted the back of the canvas on there and did it as a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got like 350,000 likes.
Yeah.
I paint something that's cool, then it gets 1,000 likes.
I know. I know. And it's because that's the way the algorithm is tuned. It's like, imagine if there were good people running these platforms that wanted to help people become more cultured, give them cool things to look at. Then our stuff would be pushed at the top of the feed, but. It's all like, seriously though, it's like we're putting all this effort in making these amazing things, and then the stupidest stuff gets pushed to the top, and it's very frustrating. I don't know, but
again, that's like my audience. Like I said, now though, it's like nice to at least have somebody look at your stuff. So.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But you would like more people look at it. I mean, again, like I had 300 and something thousand followers, but you get. The majority of them don't see what you post.
Yeah, I know.
How's that work?
It's so wrong. I mean, that's what I have a Patreon. That's where I put all my time lapses. It's like do you know Patreon?
I've heard of it. I don't know how it works.
It's like basically a feed of your stuff only, and then people pay like $1 a month or $5, whatever you charge for different things. I have like tutorials and time lapses, but I figure, you got to figure that if I could get 1% of my following over there to pay me $1 a month, I could probably make a okay living doing that. And it's like, out of 100,000, 1% is like what, 1,000 or something. It's like, if you have 1,000 people giving you, $5 a month, you're doing all right. Something, that's guaranteed money every month, or $10 a month or something. But it's so hard to get people off of these platforms. And it's like, I've got, enough paying people to where my mortgage is covered and some bill money and stuff from my Patreon every month. I can count on that. But, there's not I've got like 350 paying people, and it's like, there's not the kind of interaction as there is on Instagram, which is fine. If they're giving me their money, I'm totally happy. Whatever is good. I realize it's hard to, I'm very grateful for it, but everyone's kind of, I think, addicted to the traditional social media platforms, and they're literally addicted. I think.
And just to the phones itself. I mean,
absolutely.
One of my first major purchases when I started making some money was an answering machine, and it was one that actually lifted up the receiver of the phone.
Oh, wow.
It lifted it. It was like very early on,
right?
But it's like I don't like being bothered, and when the phone would ring and I'd answer it, and I would get people going, "How do you make a mask?" and it's like, well, I'm working on something now. I can't talk, and it's just like they're bothering me. And then it's like the last thing I want is having something in my pocket where people can bother me whenever they want to, and so I mean, early on I didn't even have a cell phone. I didn't want one, and then I eventually, when I had a child, I thought I better have something so they can contact me. And I remember it was funny when I was doing that movie Wolf with Jack Nicholson, we did a photo shoot somewhere in Culver City, and this is back when I had a Volvo that was the Volvo station wagon full of boxes of makeup and stuff that I had to take there because you don't know what you're going to end up doing. And I was left at like midnight. It was in a not very good area. It turned out I had a flat tire.
Shit!
Crap. And I pulled over into a gas station and go, "Is there a payphone around here?" And they go, "There's one way down the block," but it was like a real sketchy kind of area. And I went, "Oh shit! Maybe if I just had a phone." And I went, "Oh yeah, I do have a phone. It's in my glove compartment." But I never used it, And
you forgot.
I took it out, and the battery was dead. But I had a thing so I could plug it into my a cigarette lighter. So I called the AAA, and was thankful I had the phone at that point. And it was time to renew my subscription of whatever the phone service is. My wife went and said, my husband, I want one with the least amount of hours or whatever it is.
Right.
He never uses it, And they go, well, let's look. And they looked it up and he goes, he had the phone for 2 years and he used it for 35 seconds. And it was like, hey, everybody come here and look at this.
It's so funny.
Now I have it with me more often, mainly because it's got a camera on it. It's like,
right.
That's what I like. You have a camera with you,
Yeah.
But I always have mine on Do Not Disturb,
Yeah.
Because I get so many junk phone calls and junk emails. And it's ridiculous.
I get like 20 phone calls a day trying to give me to take out a loan or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
But it is cool that you have a camera.
Yeah.
And you can do time lapse and stuff.
I know. It's amazing. I don't like looking at social media on my phone though. The screen's too small for me. It's like, I'd rather look at the stuff. I look at most of that stuff on my computer because it's like, I've got my easel here, got my computer here for my time lapses, and I can, I just prefer to look at it bigger, but it makes me feel like, or sound like an old man, like it's too small. I can't read the screen. But
yeah, well, I have a bigger phone than the normal phone,
right.
But
But yeah, that's the world we live in.
Yeah, sure.
So do you regarding this show, did you have how did you have a theme or anything, or were you just kind of like whatever I come up with?
No, I mean, I didn't know I was going to have it. I mean, most of the paints were done before.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I did a few after the fact, but yeah, no, it was just like, what am I going to paint today? I mean, I had, I'll if I can't sleep or watching something on TV that's boring, I'll like doodle on a pad, and there'll be some interesting things. So most of them are like crap, but it's like, I think if I did something like that, it would be kind of a cool painting, and sometimes it's just like, just start, see what happens, and other ones, I mean, I did a Schlitzie painting, and
that's great.
and I did Cuckoo, and did some stuff that I liked, and I didn't, but it's different on different days and different moods.
Yeah.
But it's not a cohesive show. I mean, other than there's a lot of death involved in most of the images.
Yeah, but it's cohesive stylistically. They look together. They look like they should be together, just like visually. I don't know, from what I've seen and of the stuff you've been posting.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of them are a little more different style. I mean, a lot of them are monochromatic.
Mm-hmm.
I did some color ones, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, and what's also cool, I mean, Gary at Pro Gallery is saying he wanted like this, show some of my other stuff, the masks that I make and a couple of the sculptures just to show that I can do other things too. So I'm going to bring some of that stuff to the show too.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's so funny. When I first started painting and I was like, okay, I'm starting this career, after whenever Land of the Lost came out, remember the remake of Land of the Lost? That was the last movie I think I worked on. And, oh no. I'm talking early 2000s. I'm confused. That's when I actually left the business. When I started trying to have an art career, I was so dumb. I was like, I'm going to do this as an artist. I'm not going to tell anybody I worked in the film industry. I'm just going to, or I'm not going to like hype it or publicize it. And so I like did this slog of self-promotion and MySpace and started getting a fan base going. And then once people started to get to know me, they were like, that movie stuff, Darkman is so awesome, and all these things I worked on. And I'm like, why didn't I just share that's part of my life? Why didn't I share that in the beginning? I'd probably be like 10 times further than I was. But I had this like, I'm going to do it on my own, but turns out people love that stuff. They love it. Yeah. They love effect stuff. Everybody, like regular people, even when they see this stuff, they're impressed with it.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when somebody knows who I am, and especially when it's somebody like famous, it's like, or some like rock star or somebody is like, that is so cool, and it always surprises me because I mean, in my head, I'm still like I started when I was 10. I grew up in Covina, and
right, yeah, you're out near me, Monrovia.
Well, my mom worked at a bank in Monrovia on Myrtle.
Oh wow! No way!
She worked her whole life. Yeah, it was right up at Foothill and Myrtle. I think it was.
That's my bank.
Yeah, is it? What's it called now?
Now it's Chase.
Chase, because it was Crocker for a while, but it was United States National Bank or something. I think most of the year she was there. But,
it's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a tract house in Covina that every other house looked like mine. And it cost my parents $6,000 new. They had a 30-year loan on it. It's
crazy.
But I mean, I wasn't born into the industry.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just every day I feel I've been so blessed. I mean, I was blessed first of all with the parents I have that supported my crazy hobby. And then, I pretty much ruined my mom's kitchen oven by baking foam rubber in there.
Too.
And clogged up the kitchen sink with plaster. Track aromaplasticine through the carpets in the house, and didn't get in trouble for it. I mean, and the fact that it just worked for me. I mean, I didn't have a plan B, and
right.
I'm always be grateful that my life worked out the way it did. And that I could make a living doing the stuff that I did as a hobby. And I made a great living and where I could retire and still make stuff and pay my bills and just do it for fun,
Yeah.
No, it's so lucky, but I always wonder, what do normal people do? I mean, I know a lot of normal people retire and die because they feel like they don't have a purpose,
Yeah.
Or they just sit in a chair and watch TV. I mean, I can only watch TV for so long, I mean, when I got COVID eventually and had to spend 2 weeks in a room downstairs, I had watched everything that I ever recorded on my DVR
Yeah.
and like every DVD that I had, and movies I've already seen 1,000 times anyway,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm getting really bored with this shit. I got to make something,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I just I don't know how normal people do it, how
I think normal people don't have the desire maybe to create stuff. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, but what do they do to keep themselves entertained and be not bored,
People have gardening and they like to travel. It's like all the stuff that old people do, basically.
Hey, wait, look who you're talking to.
Well, normal old people.
Okay, that's better. That's something that's funny. I used to, again, we were talking about people think that we're, because of the dark art stuff, that we're like sick, crazy individuals. And,
right.
And a number of people go, you're so surprisingly normal. And I go, don't insult me like that.
I take great offense to that.
Yeah, calling me normal.
Yeah,
but, they say, they'll say you're so humble for what you've accomplished. I go, because I still can't even believe it happened. You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
And
yeah,
it's just like I still feel like the same kid from Covina.
Yeah.
And I'm just was lucky to get these jobs and get paid for it. And and I know that. I mean, I know I'm pretty good at stuff, and I can do a lot of different things. Yeah. But I also know that everything that I do, there's somebody out there that can do it better.
Right.
And so I mean, it's like too many people get big head in this business.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's part of the reason you're. I never. There's certain people that get shit talked about in the industry, and you're one of those guys that I never heard anyone talk shit about you. It's like you're kind of universally loved because you're a cool guy, and like I said, you can do the stuff. But I think it's because you are that kid from Covina still. You have that attitude that it's like people love you for that, and also I think people do like a success story, especially someone who came from modest means to make it big. I think it's aspirational as opposed to people that were, born into it and just kind of didn't need to do it necessarily because they were already covered. I mean, that's the coolest thing,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I went. Well, Bob Burns was the first person I met that's anywhere related to the movie industry. Know. And I met him when I was 13. My parents, because I was going to be a teenager, they said, this is a special year. Is there something you would really like to do for your birthday? And this is when Universal first opened up the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'd really like to go to Universal and go on the tour. And in my brain, I was going to hop off the tram and run into the makeup department. And I was going to get a job, And they had actually a makeup demonstration like in the basement of the commissary building, and there were a couple of makeup people doing just straight makeup on women, and I little 13-year-old Rick Bakerscope asking him questions, and it was like, kid, I'm actually an actor, and I'm just doing this for part-time now, and I don't really care about it,
right.
Leave me alone, and but on that trip, I had heard that Don Post Studios was near Universal, and when we got to the North Hollywood area, actually very close to where I live now, when it used to be Barris's the guy who did the Monster coach.
Yeah.
I had a building there, and there was across the street, there was like a gas station with a phone booth, and I had my dad look up Don Post Studios, and I had him call because I was too shy.
Yeah.
My son, makes masks, and he's really interested, and we're 30 miles away, but it was like, we came from far away, and, is it possible for us to come and visit? And they let me come and visit and see Post Studios. But
so cool.
On the wall at Post Studios was a picture of Bob's Kogar suit and his Mad Mummy, and it had his phone number, and I wrote it down, and I had my dad call Bob.
Yeah.
And same thing, my son's interested in, and they invited us over. And it was on the same street where his house is now, but it was a little triplex. full, floor to ceiling with stuff, but they were so gracious and so wonderful to me, and Bob showed me, he did a mortician's wax scar and told me that he got the mortician's wax at Max Factor and the pancake makeup at Max Factor. And I went to Max Factor for the first time. My parents took me, and I'd saved up my allowance and went in there and asked for crepe hair. It's called crepe hair, it's like, but it was, when I first walked in there, I was shocked because I expected to be like monster stuff and things. And it's like all pink and old ladies with really hairspray, done up hair, who didn't want this fucking kid in there.
Right.
But I had a point to this story. I forgot what it was though.
Well,
yeah, I know. So Bob took me, because he worked at KNXT, which is a local CBS station. He introduced me to the makeup artist there who did the newscasters, and I showed him my stuff. And he said, "I want to take you to the union. I want you to meet Perce Westmore, who was the president." And so he did. He took me to the union, and I brought a box full of stuff and photos, and Perce wasn't there, and it was the business rep named Hank Gallardo. And he said to me to give up. He said, "Kid, you're never going to get in. To get in, you have to be 21 and serve an apprenticeship. The apprenticeships are going to go to a Westmore or a Don or an existing family that's in there." It was a lot of nepotism at the time. And then he said, "And the stuff that you want to do, those jobs are few and far between. Most of the time, you're just going to be mopping sweat off of some bitchy actress." And it was like,
man.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And it was true. It was like impossible to get in the union in the early days. And
right.
They had, because of all the nepotism and because there were a lot of people that didn't really care so much about the job in the mid 70s, they had an open period that if you got 30 days work on a non-union film, they would give you a union card.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during the time I was doing King Kong. So I called up the union and I said, I'm at MGM. I'm in the old makeup lab doing what I consider makeup work, and I want my days to count. And the business rep, who hated anybody that did makeup effects kind of stuff, hated Dick Smith, hated John Chambers, came out and looked at what I was doing. And he goes, "Well, this shit isn't makeup." And I go, "What do you mean? This is what this lab was built for. I'm doing the same stuff they did in Wizard of Oz. I'm making molds, I'm casting foam rubber. It's not makeup. What is makeup? I'm buying a product and putting it on somebody's face. Okay, I have black makeup and I'm putting it around my eyes.
Yeah, right.
Before I put this mask on. Well, in that case, you're an actor doing his own makeup. It's not going to count.
Crazy.
It wouldn't count my days. And I was on the film the exact period that the open period was. And Kong at the time was like the biggest film, the most expensive film, I think, being made that year at least. And towards the end of the show, I got a script called The Ghoul from Outer Space. And I said, I don't know that I could go from the biggest movie being done that year to a movie called The Ghoul from Outer Space. So I didn't want to like burn any bridges. I just said, I'll give him a bid that would be outrageous. I think it was $10,000, to do the whole show, and they said, okay, no, shit. And I said, but you need to do something else for me. And I go, what's that? And they go, you need to make 30 days worth of checks for me during this time period.
Ah, that's great.
So I got in the union on a lie.
Oh, that's awesome.
The movie was, they changed the title to The Incredible Melting Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but so I got my days in on The Incredible Melting Man, which was actually made after the open period.
That's great.
But we were all called 30-day wonders. Anybody that got in at that point in time. V. Neal was one of them.
Oh, wow.
She was a 30-day wonder. I was the 30-day wonder. You guys don't know anything about makeup. You're you've only worked 30 days.
Right, right.
I went to a couple of union meetings and I went, no, this is bullshit. I'm not going anymore. I'll pay the fine for not going to the meetings.
Right.
And then one day, Dick Smith, when I get stuff from the union, I throw it out. Dick Smith called me up and he said, do you know what they're trying to do to us? And I go, what? And he goes, did you read the union thing? And I go, no, I threw it out. And he goes, they're changing the Constitution and they're saying that if you use the credit special makeup effects, you'll be fined the steepest fine in the union.
Oh my God.
And I went, what the fuck? And all of us that were doing that said, what the fuck? So we met with a business rep who hated us. And it was John Chambers, Tom Berman, Dick Smith, me, John Goodwin, John Russo, a number of people that were doing makeup effects. And we go, why? And they said, because it's offensive. You go, what's offensive about it? And they go, it's got the word special effects in it. Special effects guys are welders. We're artists, And
it's insane.
And I said, we're getting single card opening credits along with the director and the production designer, costume designer, with the word makeup in it. And you find that offensive. I've been in Time Magazine, Life Magazine, right, all the major magazines. Dick Smith has been in these major magazines. We've been on talk shows with the word makeup in it, and you're going to find us for it. At a time when if there is even a makeup credit, it's after the craft service guy.
Right.
It's like, you know what? Fuck you. We'll take the word makeup out. We'll call ourselves something else. You guys are just screwing yourself over. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was also makeup consultant, which Dick used for films.
Oh wow.
That's we find that offensive because that means that the makeup artist that was hired couldn't do the job right. And they go, that's why they hire the consultants, right? But,
the truth. That's insane.
And then like when the Oscar thing started,
yeah,
I got my American Werewolf Oscar, which I didn't think was ever going to happen. It's a monster movie with nudity and gore.
Yeah. You got the first makeup effects Oscar, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then I got hate mail from the union for it. For not thanking the union.
There's I think from that in that time period, I think a lot of people, I don't know, I wasn't around back then, but back in the day when you really, in the union, it seemed like a lot of people were jealous of people that could do this sort of thing.
Again, because they couldn't,
Exactly.
And I understand that too, in that it's more flashy,
right.
What I mean? But they were trying to eliminate the category.
Yeah, that's wrong.
And in one of the bake-off meetings, and I should get off this rant here. We should talk about paintings, but the business rep of the union was in charge of the makeup committee that decides on what gets Oscars, and one of them, he goes, "There's some movies here today that shouldn't be here, and And it's because of these people, especially Rick Baker, the real makeup artist is never going to win an Oscar." And it was just like so much hate from these guys. And I met guys when I started King Kong. The president of the union was the makeup guy, and he goes, the makeup president at the time was the makeup artist on King Kong, and he said, "I heard all about you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you never get in." I said, "What have you heard? What have you heard of that? I worship makeup artists. That all my life, all I've done, I've ripped every article from every magazine
right.
makeup artist was in. I know the names of every makeup artist on every TV show. I worship these guys, and I work to do the best work I can possibly do. What the fuck?"
It's almost like they were afraid that you were coming after them when you were the result of these people's work over the years, a fan of that kind of stuff. And they felt threatened by you is what it was.
Yeah, no, I know it was, but it was just, it's a different time now.
Yeah.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better. There's a lot of people that can appreciate this work, and I'm glad that it's changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were like the bastard children of the makeup union.
Right. Yeah. That's again though, that's, that gets back to this idea of, there's some parallel between dark art being marginalized and makeup effects being marginalized. I don't know what the I think it's odd is all. It's unusual. It's interesting.
So, Chet, do you ever paint anything pretty? I mean, I think your work is pretty, but,
Yeah.
but I mean, like,
I
you know what I mean? More normal, like.
I can. I recently did a portrait for a collector that was him and his daughter and his dog. And I enjoy that. When I first started painting, I was like, it was all this kind of stuff. This is my piece for the Beksinski tribute show, by the way. The night of your show is going to be the Beksinski show in the other room, this show is going to be so badass between you and this Beksinski. It's going to be amazing. But I wanted to do one for that show too.
I bet. And then it was just like, I better concentrate on my own show.
I know that's
because I used to have that Beksinski painting in my office.
I know. That's one of the few Beksinskis I saw was yours, and it was like a classic, amazing painting. But what I was going to say was like, I was so focused on doing this kind of dark stuff. It's like all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do still lifes. I didn't want to do anything normal. And now after having done it for 25 years, I guess 24, I don't know, something like that. I'm so into doing a still life or a regular normal painting now because it's so different. It feels good to just kind of change it up once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of dog paintings.
Yeah, same here.
Who've lost their dog,
Yeah.
because I love dogs so much. I know how much that hurts to lose one,
Yeah.
And I did paintings of my girls and some stuff. I actually was thinking about, I think you might have seen this a big painting I did of Rebecca when she was about 3. It's kind of like a Cupid.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. I was thinking about bringing that to the show just to show that I can do other stuff, but it's kind of big and it's going to be a little hard to transport. So I don't know.
Yeah. Sounds like you're going to have a lot of stuff there anyway.
Well, as it is, I mean, there's 22 paintings.
That's great. Yeah. What? I was just going to say that's a good amount of paintings for a solo show. That's solid. It's like I usually only get like, and the last one I had was maybe 13.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So 22 is good. I wish I
22, and I had the 3 other ones that were at the LA Art thing that those sold.
Yeah,
so
those are great. That. Those are great. Oh, they're going to be in the show?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, I'm a little bit anxious about it, because I haven't really done this, and I like people to like my stuff, and hopefully some of them will.
Yeah. I felt like, when I first got into makeup effects, I felt like, these are my people, And then when I got into fine art and I started going to shows and then having shows, I had that same feeling. These are my people. So I think you'll probably, you've been to the shows, but I think those are your people that are going to be at that show, So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so cool. And, I'm so happy the way it worked out. I'm just stoked. Like I said, I've been wanting you to paint and show in galleries since 2000, whenever I saw that painting years. So I'm excited.
And that was more of a normal painting. And that was oil, by the way. It was
Alkids, right? Yeah. I remember you saying it was Alkids.
Yeah.
Have you ever painted oils on top of acrylics?
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. The little baby Jesus.
Okay.
Is that, and it's the same with the one that I was talking about, Rebecca, that my daughter Rebecca, I was thinking about bringing to the show, did it in acrylics first, but little kids are smooth, and and so I repainted over it with oil.
Yeah, it works well. It's a good technique. Yeah, kind of get best of both worlds with that.
Yeah, because again, with the acrylics are fast, and But I like the fact that it just uses water and not a solvent too, because I usually end up covered in paint, I've done things, rest my hand on it and like wipe my
Yeah.
face, and then it's like, oh shit, or I got,
Yeah.
black stuff in my beard.
You find it on the walls. It's like, okay, I've had it where I found it all over my house. I'm like, okay, where is it on me? And you have to kind of look all over, and it's like on a black shirt on the back of your arm. And you're just rubbing it all over everything.
Yeah, no, I'm not neat when I work. Anything when I sculpt or anything. I mean, it's all about what I'm doing it there.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, and shit's flying everywhere,
Same here. That's like, I could never understand. I mean, I'm really a messy, naturally messy person. I've just like, I don't know if it's ADHD or what, but I've never been able to, I clean when it gets to a point where I always say the difference between me and a hoarder is that I have a point where I have to clean or I can't keep working, whereas hoarders will just keep bringing the mess in. I do have a point where I clean, but to me, when I'm painting, my studio always gets messy while I'm painting. I can't, because I'm so into it. I feel like this is the only thing that matters at this point. I don't care if there's cans on the floor and it's just a mess and chaos. It's like, but to me, it makes sense. And it makes sense because birth is messy and painful and, and like it's a messy process. And so I think like an artist creating, is, for me, it feels like a natural way to do it. Like, look at my palette here. It's like, it's just like piles of paint, and that's the best I could do to stay organized. I wish I was better about that, but
yeah, no, I mean, what I wish I was better with organized with that is, where did I put that brush? It's like I got it in my head, and it's like, and where'd that paint color go? Because there's a stack of tubes everywhere.
Totally, I know.
Yeah,
it's so frustrating.
But yeah, when I'm in the midst of being creative, that's all that counts.
Yeah.
I remember actually on Men in Black 3, I had Steve Koch come up and take a picture when I was working on the Metaluna mutant kind of thing upstairs.
Yeah, things amazing.
And I had like every table in there covered with stuff. The floor was covered with stuff. There was just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Really, you wanted me to take a picture of this mess?" And I go, "Yeah, because this is how I work."
Yeah. This is what it
But
takes.
it's the same thing. I mean, I think most creative people are kind of hoarders,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll find things and go, I can use this for something,
Yeah.
I can, I'll keep this, and sometimes I do use it,
Yep.
A lot of times you don't, but it's the same thing. I mean, like I said, I spent a month cleaning up and organizing because it was just out of control, and it gets to that point where when you can't find anything, you have to.
Yeah. It feels good too. It's like, to me, that's the natural process. Like, everything gets, you start with a clean space, you create your work, everything slowly gets messy while you're creating this amazing piece. And then you end up with this huge mess and this amazing piece. And then you clean the mess up and start over. That's kind of that's the way it works for me. It's just like part of the life cycle of creating work, Yeah.
And it's the same thing that cleaning up and organizing I get real into when I get into that mode.
Right.
When I tell myself, okay, I got to do this now, then it's kind of like the same thing as when you're being creative. I just like, okay, I'm gonna, and you get all motivated to get it clean again, so you can mess it up again.
Yeah, that's what I did over COVID. I got this really lucky gig where I was with these tool posters. I did artwork for the tool posters, and they were like super hot on the collector's market. So I had this couple friends of mine that were poster collectors bringing me posters to do doodles on. It's like it carried me all throughout COVID. It was amazing just doing these poster doodles and getting, people charging for these doodles on these posters. And now I forgot what I was going to say. What were we just talking about? Fuck. This happens at least once. It happens once everyone listening is like, oh yeah, Chet does this at least once every episode.
Yeah, well, I do that too, but I'm a lot older than you. So.
I know, it's bad. My memory's so bad. It's kind of scary. I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it. Okay. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Well, I wasn't paying attention anyway. So.
I don't know. We were just
what I remember? One of my favorite memories about you in the shop, and it was on that awful abortion of a movie, that cursed movie. When we were in one of the spray booths, and we had a silicone thing over that chest that we were going to do, that thing where we were going to suck air out of it to show the ribs, but we were like blowing air into it, and it was making like fart noises. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember.
But no, I vividly remember, because we were both there just blowing that air and cracking up about these noises that were coming out.
Oh man, that show was something.
Oh, that was a shit show.
Yeah. That was a trip for me. Because I was only with you for 5 years. I worked there 5 years. I worked until you closed the shop, and I always felt like I had a really interesting perspective when you closed down. It was such a huge thing in the industry, and it was like you could feel the pain of everybody. It's like, but everybody totally understood why you did it. Like no one was against you closing down. Everyone I talked to anyway was like, I totally get it. I wouldn't want to be in that position either, where everything's faster and less time, and you just can't make the quality. That's what's fun, is making it good, not making it fast and lame, But I had this weird perspective because I hadn't been there like 15 years or what, as a lot of people were, so I kind of viewed it. I was able to kind of have more of an objective perspective from the outside, because I still wasn't I wasn't entrenched in that shop as a lifer, although I would have loved to have been, but, so it was just, I don't know. I was just like observing the whole thing, and it was really just, I don't know. I just feel like I was there for this big historic moment, not putting not putting a judgment on it as a good or a bad thing. It was just like, it was a historic moment in the industry when it was kind of a bummer. Actually, it was kind of sad because that shop was so amazing. People don't understand how cool that shop was. You had those flying monkey gargoyles. It was like the stairway, the secret door to your place, and your like that sitting room you had in front of your main makeup thing that was like a mad scientist lab. It was, I just feel like so lucky that I was able to be there and see all that stuff. It was so cool.
Yeah, well, that's never going to happen again, is it? I mean,
that's the thing. It's never going to happen again.
No,
that's kind of what makes it special, though.
Yeah, but I mean, that's again why I feel so fortunate that, I mean, I came along at the right time with the right skill set. I mean,
right.
There's never going to be another Stan Winston or a Rick Baker. I mean, now it's those days are gone, and we were there for the golden age of makeup effects. And help create that golden age, and it's a kind of a gone thing now, And what does kind of piss me off about all the great makeups that are being done now is they are doing them in record time. It's like, and it's like, well, that would have taken me a lot longer than, And I mean, I mean, when American Werewolf came out, I did a lot of interviews and stuff, and they said, what's the new material that allowed you to do this stuff that hasn't been done before? And I said, I got adequate time and adequate money.
Right.
I said, if you give us the right amount of time to do our job and the right amount of money, we can make stuff that really is going to last and work when it's supposed to, and not be broken, and I, on Gremlins 2, we had like a year's prep, I think.
It's crazy.
And I mean, we did make a shitload of stuff, but I didn't want to end my career doing substandard work, because they weren't allowing me to. And even if and the thing was too, even if they gave you adequate time, they wasted it for you by all the people telling you to do another design, do another one,
and how much money is wasted on that process too. It's like you're wasting your own money by doing this when you could let us do our thing, and you'll save money and have an amazing thing for your film.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it was so frustrating, soul sucking, It's just,
it was. So everybody people were sad that you closed it down, but everybody totally understood. And I don't know, it was really a special time. The whole, I don't know, your career spanned the the special part of makeup effects.
Mm.
You know, now it's not as, it's cool still, but it's never going to be like that. Like you said, it's never going to be like that again. You know, I don't know. Just like, what'd you do for American Werewolf? Change-o heads was like urethane, or what did you use for the skins on that?
Yeah, it was
they didn't have silicone.
No, it was BJB 724, I think it was called. It was a urethane elastomer.
And you can't paint it. It's like,
it was, and all the stuff we had to use, you painted stuff with rubber mask grease paint,
right?
Which is like so full of castor oil, it's hard to glue anything on top of it, or it's all, it was a different world.
Yeah,
I'm still surprised. In my crew on that were all people that I brought out from different places. There wasn't the workforce there is now.
Right.
And they were all kids.
Yeah.
And we managed to still do something that looks still pretty good today. And 45 years ago or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, no.
And they're making toys. John Lance keeps sending me new. Look at this new toy they made of David and Griffin, or look at the new toy they made of the wolf, and
it's so cool.
Look at this cool T-shirt,
Yeah.
And it's funny to see. You must have people that have tattoos of your work on them.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So cool.
Same thing.
Yeah, I've seen tons of your stuff tattooed.
Yeah, there's a lot of American Werewolf ones.
Yeah.
Though it's usually the Pat McGee one that he makes, because there weren't pictures online, or there weren't pictures of the werewolf.
I see.
Pictures of his,
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then my Popeye that I did it when I was beta testing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was when I was beta testing the first ZBrush that had subtools. I've seen that Popeye on a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember first seeing it, and I was like, "That's not your Popeye. That's Rick Baker's Popeye." It's like, but that's the way the tattoo world goes.
Yeah, well, no, and there was somebody else notified me. Are you aware that this CG company has this on their site, is claiming it's their work?
Oh,
and
really?
It was their opening screen page or whatever it was. A picture of my
really
my ZBrush thing. Yeah.
Wow.
But we do it for the love of it.
Yeah.
There's still. To be frank, I was supposed to get money on Gremlin Toys. We actually made a deal for that.
Oh, wow.
And for the first couple of years I did. And there's been so many made since then. I didn't realize, because the checks were going to a business manager. I didn't realize that they had stopped. And at one point when I changed business managers, I asked about, and he goes, we haven't seen anything. And then there are a shitload of toys that have been made of that, and they're making, someone sent me, are you aware they're doing this? And it was my devil guy a mask I made before Star Wars.
Yeah.
That I let him use in the cantina scene.
Right.
Well, it's shown up in some of those series they're doing on the Disney Channel. Basically similar makeup, but
right.
they're making action figures of it, and it's like, this is my copyrighted mask from 1972,
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Spend a bunch of money suing them. And
on lawyers that are going to make money, and Disney and Lucas have a lot more money than I do to fight it.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm flattered that somebody's even interested in it.
Yeah.
But
it's easier too, because you're good, you're set. you're set for the rest of your life. It's not like they're like you're starving and they're exploiting you.
Yeah, no, it's true. If I was starving, it would be a
pisser. Yeah,
but I wouldn't have the money to get lawyers.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it is kind of cool. I don't know. It's just so amazing. You really have been blessed. It's really incredible. Your career is unbelievable.
No, I like I said, I feel it every day, and I never expected. I was determined that I was going to be a makeup artist, and I was determined to try to do the best work I could possibly do. But the industry wasn't like what it became.
Yeah.
I didn't dare dream of what my career really turned out to be.
Yeah.
It was insane, and I'm always going to be grateful.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's cool that you're sharing that, you're sharing all the fun stuff you do now with everybody, because people get a lot of inspiration from that, I think. And again, I have to say, you're such a, you really, it's, you paint, it's, you paint how I paint. It's like I think there's got to be some makeup effects thing with paint, the way that we paint, maybe because of how we learn to paint. Because in your painting, I was like, you're just kind of going out of your head for a lot of it, or you'd have a picture. You're not, like we said, the tracing thing. You're just kind of doing it, and I'm just like, man, that's basically how I do it. It's just so related to it. I was like, and it just,
but I do need reference. I mean, I know some real basic anatomy kind of stuff, and a lot of times when I start with something that's just kind of, just me doing it, and then it's like, okay, I better look at some anatomy books.
Oh, but yeah, that's
yeah, and then I'll get out a skull. Or,
oh yeah, totally.
Or I have a shitload of life casts and castings and things I can shine some light on and look at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's proper.
But, yeah,
that's the way we do it.
But yeah, I just feel fortunate that I can do this stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's still why I work every day.
Yeah.
While I still can.
That reminds me. Do you remember that Paul? What was his name? Paul. He's a famous famous artist that Kazu was working for. Paul.
Oh yes.
McCarthy. Paul McCarthy.
Yeah.
His shop is like 10 minutes from my house. So I worked for Kazu for a little while. That was one of the last things I did actually for this crazy art stuff he was doing. But he didn't get success until he was an older guy. He was doing this stuff like in the 70s, early 70s. He's weird, I don't know if you saw the stuff he does. It's crazy, weird. It's not really my thing, but he finally got big success. Like from what I heard, he's backed by some Russian billionaire that basically gives him as much money as he wants to do whatever he wants, which is incredible. So he's got like a huge makeup effects shop basically that's making all of his props for movies and stuff like that. But the thing I was going to say is, you were talking about feeling like you're, want to make the most of your time left that you have, that we all feel the older we get. He would always walk everywhere really fast in the different rooms. And, someone told me it was because he didn't get any success, and he didn't get that kind of success until he was older. So he's like rushing around trying to make as much shit as he can, before he dies. And it's like, I totally get that,
Yeah, no, definitely. That's how I feel too.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like you're just playing it by ear and seeing how it goes and with this show, or do you think that maybe keep doing it, or are you just going to keep doing whatever?
Well, I've always painted. I mean, I painted from, the time I was 10,
Right,
and
right.
I do enjoy it, but I'll do, and again, it's something I liked about being in the film industry. Every job was different, and you were, it was the same thing over and over again. You get, so I mean, it's been like months of me painting every day, basically. And I'm at the point now where I'm ready to move on to something else for a while, but I'm sure I'll go back to painting again after I do something else.
Cool.
No, I'm never going to stop painting, and
good.
But I'm not thinking that's all I'm ever going to do, though. Is just again, I got some masks I want to make still.
If I had the option, I'd be doing the same thing you're doing, which is just whatever I want to do, making masks and stuff. I haven't made a mask in so long. I'm so jealous when I see you pull those latex pulls out of plaster molds. I'm like, oh man, I bet that smells so good.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like it. The first time you pull the mask
it's
out,
so cool. Latex masks are so cool.
Yeah, no, it just brings back so many memories of, that first mask I ever made, and the first time I pulled one out,
Oh yeah.
No, there's something about it.
Yeah, there is. It's just like, it's that nostalgia factor. But man, anyway, we live vicariously through your Instagram feed, us other makeup effects guys.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, and I don't know. I think I appreciate you coming on. It was so much fun to talk
It was great to see you again.
You too. Yeah.
We should hang out sometime.
I know, right? Let's have lunch or something.
But I'm not a hangout kind of guy, though. That's the problem. I'm sure you aren't either. It's like, I'm painting. I don't want to, because that's the thing too. I'll get people asking me to have lunch,
Yeah, I know.
Okay, give me 2 weeks because I'm in the middle of something, and then I tell everybody that, and then the 2 weeks is up, and then I get, 6 people that want to have lunch that week,
Right,
but it is nice. I mean, I do. It's funny. I usually, because I basically don't talk during the day. In fact, I've been putting cough drops in my mouth because my throat's getting sore from talking. Because I'm in a room by myself. And same thing when I have lunch with somebody else. Like, oh, my throat's sore. But you kind of. I remember my parents saying that I could go for months without saying anything. And then all of a sudden I would not stop talking, and rattle off a bunch of stuff, And I've kind of found that a couple of times. I've apologized to some people that I went to lunch with. I go, yeah, I realized I never shut up the whole time we were having lunch, talking about all kinds of shit you really didn't care about, But I really haven't talked to a person in 5 months.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, I remember being a kid and not being able to verbalize what I was thinking. I remember feeling so frustrated because I wanted to tell people things pretty little. And I feel like I'm so bad at speaking. It's like, this is the best I can do on this podcast. And it's part of the reason I started doing it is so I could work on my speaking skills because I was so bad at it. So I think there's probably something wrong with my brain, some kind of.
I think there's something wrong with all of our brains.
Yeah.
No, and I think we're all, when you mentioned ADD, and I haven't been diagnosed with anything because I don't go to doctors to find out.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of dyslexic.
Yeah.
I have a hard times with numbers, and
me too.
And I swear I'm on the autism spectrum somewhere.
Right? I feel the same way. I've never been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I am.
Yeah, because the fact we've watched a number of shows about autism, and my wife and I look at each other and go, "You do that?" I go, "Yeah, I know. I recognize that." You go, "You do that too?" I go, "Yeah, I know." And, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. It's served you well for sure.
Yeah. But again, I mean, if it didn't work out for me, I would be homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know what else. I couldn't hold a regular job. So.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare. That'd be worse than dealing with producers and stuff. Well, I would love to have lunch with you or whatever. If ever we could ever work it out, I'm totally down to do it. The thing about that is I don't go out either. But when I do, I'm always I'm glad I did. That's healthy. It was healthy of me to get out of here because I literally won't leave the house because my wife will do the grocery shopping because I don't I get kind of anxious just being out in grocery stores. You know how it is. So I could literally spend weeks in this house without going out. So it's good for me to get out. So if you ever want to, I'm down. And there's a really great pizza.
No, you should come by and see my home studio.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
There's also a killer, amazing cornmeal crust pizza place. If you ever find yourself out here, that's so good that I take everybody. It's called Zello, and I should be getting a sponsorship from them because I promote it on the podcast all the time. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, I've never seen your place, so I'd be down to come.
Yeah, that's cool.
Fun. Cool. Well, thank you.
Well, I'll see you at the art show, right? You'll be at the.
Of course. Yeah. Can't wait. So that's May 10th. It's opening.
May 10th.
Opening night. For people who don't know, it's free. A lot of people, they're going to maybe be going to their first art show because of you. And people, seriously, people hit, I've seen people ask do you have to pay to get in? Is there an admission fee? It's a free show. Anybody just show up. It's going to be, is this your first solo show?
Yeah, it's my first show, period. Of paintings like that, yeah.
Yeah, so this is Rick's first solo show, and then we're going to have the group show, Beksinski group show in the other room. So it's going to be just an amazing show. So anybody in the area should absolutely go. and hassle Rick, make him feel uncomfortable, bother him.
But you really even know if it's me, because I could make somebody up to look like me.
That's true. That's true.
No, but no, it's funny because, I did, when I was doing that Mac collaboration, we had a party at the shop, and, it was the Mac one. And that's when I did that steampunk Frankenstein.
That thing was amazing.
Yeah. But a number of people came as Rick Baker.
Oh, really?
One of them was one of my neighbors he's got white hair, but, he clipped on a ponytail. And people were taking pictures with him, and posting him on Instagram and going, I would have thought that Rick Baker at his own party would have at least worn some makeup, and it scared me in that it's like, all you have to do is put a ponytail on an old guy and, and rob a bank, and they'll come and arrest me, So,
that's hilarious. Oh, man.
A big nose and a ponytail,
Well, I say you're more iconic. That's why you're an icon. You're iconic. That's why people can. Well,
again, that's, in the movie industry, especially, everybody's a genius. Everybody's a legend,
Yeah.
It's like, and I take that with a grain of salt, though, it's like, because everybody, I think you mentioned something about, legendary because you live long enough,
Yeah, right.
It's like, but again, I'm a 10-year-old kid in an old man's body,
right?
Was just happy that he can make stuff still, and is going to do it as long as he still can. So.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, my dad was painting until he died. My stepdad, so I'm never going to stop. I can't imagine just not creating.
No,
and it's awesome that you're sharing it. So, okay, the final thing is, can you just, it's this dumb thing I do on every podcast. Can you just tell people goodbye in any way that you want? So it's just like, I can't stop it for some reason. I started doing it and I can't stop it. I think it's OCD.
That sounds kind of grim, though, telling people goodbye.
Well, just whatever.
I mean, it does seem like the world's going to end, so maybe.
True. Maybe now more than ever you need to say.
Yeah. Am I supposed to say my name and stuff too?
No, you just however you'd want to say goodbye to the listening audience.
So this is on YouTube too, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, so they can see you too.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah.
Hey, they got to see me every week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had a lot of fun here talking with my old friend Chet Zar, and I'm going to say goodbye to you all now. And I hope you enjoy this podcast and come see my show.
Yes, May 10th. Thanks, Rick, man. It was so great talking to you and really enjoyed it.
Me too, Chet. Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, you too. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and I'll see you next time.